Sylvester stares at the empty plate before him as Christmas Eve dinner fills the dining room with delicious aromas. His daughter Amanda stands over him, her voice cutting through the uncomfortable silence. "You didn't contribute, so you don't eat." The family watches in shocked silence. When he protests, she announces she's selling his house after the holidays. "What use are you anyway?" she mocks, encouraging others to laugh. Little does she know, Sylvester has kept a secret about the house deed for 30 years, waiting for the right moment. I never thought my own daughter would deny me food at Christmas dinner in the house I built with my own 2 hands. But I guess life has a way of surprising you, even at 67 years old. Dorothy and I purchased this land back in 1983. We were young, in love, and full of dreams. I was 30 years old, with a growing construction business, and Dorothy worked as a nurse at the local hospital. We saved every penny for 5 years to buy this plot on the edge of town. It wasn't much then, just 3 acres with old oak trees and a view of the mountains that took your breath away on clear mornings. Dorothy would sit on a folding chair watching me work every weekend. I can still picture her there, thermos of coffee beside her, making notes in her little blue notebook about how she wanted the kitchen arranged or which bedroom would be perfect for the children we hoped to have. It took me 18 months to build this house, working evenings and weekends while keeping my business running. Every nail, every board, every shingle on this roof was placed by these hands. We tried for 7 years to have a baby. The doctors told Dorothy she might never conceive. We were just starting to look into adoption when the miracle happened. Amanda was born on a snowy January morning in 1990. I remember holding that tiny bundle, her face all red and wrinkled, thinking she was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. My construction business took off in the 90s. We specialized in custom homes, and I developed a reputation for quality craftsmanship. Dorothy quit nursing to raise Amanda, and our life seemed picture perfect. Amanda was a bright child, always asking questions, always wanting to know how things worked. I built her a treehouse when she was 8, and she helped me hammer in some of the floorboards. Her little face would light up with such pride when she hit the nail straight. Everything changed when Dorothy got sick. Amanda was 15 when we got the diagnosis. Pancreatic cancer, already advanced. The doctors gave her 6 months, but my Dorothy fought for 3 years. Those years drained us, not just emotionally, but financially. The medical bills kept coming, and insurance only covered so much. I took out loans, maxed out credit cards, sold equipment from my business, anything to get Dorothy the best care possible. The night before Dorothy passed, she made me promise to take care of Amanda. "Make sure she gets to college," she whispered, her hand so fragile in mine. "Make sure she has every opportunity." I nodded, tears streaming down my face. I would have promised her anything in that moment. Amanda changed after her mother died. The sweet, curious girl became driven, almost obsessed with success. She threw herself into schoolwork, determined to get into an elite college. Maybe it was her way of coping with grief, channeling it into ambition. I understood that, even as I missed the daughter who used to help me in my workshop. When Amanda got accepted to Princeton, I couldn't have been prouder. But the tuition was steep, far more than what we had saved before Dorothy's illness. I didn't tell Amanda, but I took a second mortgage on our house to pay for her education. I picked up extra jobs, working sometimes 14 hours a day. My own business struggled as I couldn't give it the attention it deserved. But Amanda's future came first. Dorothy would have wanted that. Amanda met Richard in her junior year. He was studying law, came from a wealthy family back east. When they got engaged after graduation, I thought maybe life was looking up again. Richard was polite enough, always called me sir in those early days. They moved to Boston where he joined a prestigious law firm. Amanda got her MBA and landed a job with an investment company. For a few years, things were good between us. They'd visit on holidays, call every Sunday. Amanda seemed happy, successful. I kept working, slowly rebuilding my business and paying off debts. But as Amanda climbed the corporate ladder, the visits became less frequent, the calls shorter. When I turned 65, my arthritis was getting bad. Years of construction work had taken a toll on my body. Amanda suggested I sell the house and move in with them. "It's too much for you to maintain, Dad," she said. "Plus, you could help with the grandkids." I wasn't ready to give up my independence, but I did agree to sign some paperwork that Amanda brought over. She explained it would put the house in her name for estate planning purposes, but that I would live there as long as I wanted. Richard had prepared the documents himself, and I trusted them. I signed without reading the fine print. After all, this was my daughter. What I didn't know then was that Amanda had already been meeting with real estate agents. I discovered this by accident when I found business cards tucked into her coat pocket when she visited last spring. When I asked about them, she brushed it off as research for a client. I believed her, or maybe I wanted to believe her. But looking back, that was when the seed of suspicion first took root in my mind. This Christmas Eve started like any other. I woke up early, excited to have the family together. Amanda, Richard, and their kids Tyler and Haley were staying with me for the holiday. Jack, my son from my first brief marriage, was coming with his wife Tina. My sister Margaret was driving in from Cincinnati. It would be the first Christmas in 5 years with everyone under one roof, and I wanted it to be special. Despite my arthritis flaring up in the cold weather, I spent the morning hanging extra decorations and putting the final touches on the gifts I'd made. Woodworking has always been my passion, and I'd spent months crafting personalized items for everyone. A jewelry box for Margaret with her initials carved into the lid, a set of coasters for Jack and Tina with their wedding date, a chess set for Tyler who had recently taken up the game, and a music box for Haley that played her favorite song. For Amanda and Richard, I'd made a wall clock with family photos embedded around the face. Amanda and Richard arrived first, the day before Christmas Eve, with Tyler and Haley in tow. Tyler, now 16, gave me a warm hug. At 14, Haley was going through that awkward phase where she wasn't sure if hugging her grandfather was cool anymore, but she gave me a shy smile that reminded me so much of Dorothy. "We brought everything for dinner," Amanda announced as they unloaded the car. "I've planned a traditional menu. Richard, put the wine in the kitchen. Tyler, take the bags upstairs." I tried to help carry bags, but Amanda stopped me. "Dad, you'll just slow us down. Why don't you go sit in your chair?" That stung, but I brushed it off. Amanda had always been efficient, sometimes to the point of being bossy. I went to help in the kitchen instead, but found myself continually edged out of the way as Amanda took command of my own kitchen. Jack and Tina arrived next with their famous apple pie. Jack had never been as close to me as Amanda, partly because he was raised primarily by his mother after our divorce when he was just 3. But in recent years, we'd rebuilt our relationship. He was a high school science teacher now, and Tina worked as a nurse, just like Dorothy had. "Looking good, Dad," Jack said, clapping me on the shoulder. "How's the woodshop?" Before I could answer, Amanda interrupted. "The basement is a mess. I keep telling him to clear it out so we can finish it properly and add value to the house." "It's not a mess," I objected. "It's organized exactly how I like it." Amanda rolled her eyes. "Sure, Dad. Whatever you say." Margaret arrived last, bringing her famous cranberry relish and a warm hug. At 72, my sister moved more slowly these days, but her mind was sharp as ever. She took one look at the tension in the room and raised an eyebrow at me. As the evening progressed, I noticed something odd. Amanda was assigning tasks to everyone for dinner preparation. Jack and Richard were in charge of setting up the extra table. Tina was helping with vegetable prep. Margaret was put on dessert duty. The kids were wrapping last-minute gifts. Everyone had a role except me. "What can I help with?" I asked Amanda. "Nothing, Dad. Just stay out of the way." I retreated to the living room, feeling oddly like a guest in my own home. Through the doorway, I could see everyone bustling about, laughing and talking. The exclusion hurt more than I wanted to admit. When it was time for dinner, Richard called everyone to the table. I noticed immediately that there were only 7 place settings at the table. Amanda had deliberately not set a place for me. "Amanda," I said quietly, "there's no place for me." She looked up from arranging the turkey on a platter. "Oh, I thought you could sit at the kitchen counter. There's not really room at the table." The table I had built myself could easily seat 10. There was plenty of room. "I'd like to sit with the family," I insisted. Amanda's face tightened. "Fine. Tyler, get Grandpa a chair and a plate." Tyler jumped up immediately. "Sure, Grandpa. You can sit by me." I settled into the chair Tyler brought, feeling everyone's eyes on me. Amanda served the food, starting with Richard, then the kids, then Jack, Tina, and Margaret. When everyone had full plates, she put the serving dishes down, pointedly skipping me. "Excuse me," I said, reaching for the mashed potatoes. "You forgot to serve me." Amanda placed her hand on top of mine, stopping me. Her voice was cold. "Actually, Dad, everyone contributed to this meal. Richard bought the turkey. Jack and Tina brought sides. Margaret made dessert. The kids helped cook. What did you contribute?" The table fell silent. I stared at her, not believing what I was hearing. "This is my house, Amanda. I provided the place for us all to gather." "A house you haven't maintained properly in years," she snapped. "A house that's costing more in repairs every year. A house that would be worth so much more if you'd let me manage it properly. Amanda, Richard said quietly. That's enough. But Amanda was on a roll now. You didn't contribute, so you don't eat. That's the rule this year. I looked around the table. Jack was staring at his plate, face red with embarrassment or anger. I couldn't tell which. Margaret looked horrified. The kids were frozen, forks halfway to their mouths. Amanda, this is ridiculous, Margaret finally said. Sylvester, take some food. As I reached for the serving spoon again, Amanda's voice cut through the air. If anyone gives him food, you can leave too. I stood up slowly. I think I'll excuse myself. Actually, while everyone's here, Amanda said, her voice suddenly businesslike, I wanted to announce that after the holidays, we'll be putting the house on the market. The shock must have shown on my face because she added quickly, Don't worry, Dad. We've found a wonderful retirement community called Golden Sunset. They have an opening in February. This is my house, I said, my voice shaking. You can't sell it without my permission. Amanda laughed, a sound without humor. Actually, I can. The house is in my name now, remember? You signed the papers last year. She turned to the others. Dad's getting forgetful. That's another reason the retirement home is a good idea. What use are you anyway? She added, looking me up and down dismissively. You can barely take care of yourself, let alone this property. She gestured for others to laugh along with her. Richard gave a weak chuckle. Jack looked down at his plate. Margaret's lips were pressed into a thin line. I walked out of the dining room with as much dignity as I could muster, the sound of Amanda's voice following me. He'll calm down once he realizes it's for the best. Now, who wants more turkey? In the privacy of my bedroom, I sat on the edge of my bed, hands trembling. Not from anger, though that was there too, but from shock. How had we come to this point? When had my daughter become this person? I heard a soft knock on the door. Thinking it might be Jack or Margaret, I called, Come in. Instead, Tyler slipped into the room, a napkin-wrapped bundle in his hand. I brought you some food, Grandpa, he whispered, handing it to me. Mom's wrong. This is your house. That small act of kindness from my grandson broke something inside me. I thanked him, throat tight with emotion, as he slipped back out to rejoin the dinner. I wasn't hungry anymore. Instead, I walked to my home office and turned on the light. I needed to think, to plan, but what I found on my desk stopped me cold. A stack of real estate brochures for my house, with tomorrow's date written on the cover in Amanda's handwriting. She had scheduled house viewings for Christmas Day, without even telling me. Sleep eluded me that night. As I lay awake, memories flooded back, a lifetime of moments that led to this painful Christmas Eve. After Dorothy died, I worked myself to exhaustion, trying to keep our world together. The construction business suffered during the recession of 2008, but I had promises to keep, especially to Amanda. I never told her how close we came to losing everything during those years. Instead, I picked up night work as a security guard at the local shopping center. On weekends, I did maintenance jobs for cash. I slept maybe 4 hours a night for 2 years straight. Amanda was flourishing at Princeton, unaware that I was working 3 jobs to keep her there. She'd call, excited about her classes, her friends, her future. I'd listen while sitting in my truck between jobs, exhausted but happy she was doing well. She never asked how I was managing the bills. Maybe she assumed there was plenty of money. I never corrected that assumption. During her senior year, Amanda needed extra money for graduate school applications and some special program the university offered. I was stretched to the breaking point financially, but I didn't hesitate. I sold my 1968 Mustang, the car Dorothy and I drove on our honeymoon, the car I'd been restoring for 15 years. It hurt to watch it being driven away, but Amanda's education came first. When she graduated with honors, I stood in the audience, bursting with pride. Dorothy would have been so proud too. Amanda introduced me to her friends' parents, successful professionals in tailored suits who talked about vacation homes and investment portfolios. I wore my one good suit, the one I'd bought for Dorothy's funeral, now a bit tight around the middle and shiny at the elbows. Amanda didn't say anything, but I caught the slight embarrassment in her eyes when one parent asked what I did for a living. My dad built our house himself, she said quickly. He's very handy. Not my dad owns a construction company, just handy, like I was a hobbyist, rather than a skilled tradesman who had built a business from nothing. After graduation, when Amanda moved to Boston with Richard, I encouraged her to focus on her career rather than worrying about me. I'm fine, I'd tell her during our phone calls. Business is picking up. In truth, I was struggling. The physical toll of construction work was catching up to me, my arthritis making it harder to do the detailed work that had been my specialty. 5 years ago, I fell from a ladder at a job site, badly injuring my shoulder and back. The doctor said I needed to consider a less physical occupation, but construction was all I knew. I scaled back, taking only small jobs I could handle, and sold off some of my larger equipment to pay medical bills. Through it all, I kept up appearances for Amanda. When she visited with the grandkids, I made sure the house was spotless, that I looked healthy and strong. I didn't want her to worry or feel obligated to help. She had her own life to live. What Amanda never knew was that after Dorothy's passing, I'd consulted with a financial advisor named Bill Thompson. Bill was an old client whose house I'd built back in the 90s. He helped me structure my assets carefully, including setting up a special trust for the house. "This protects your property," Bill had explained, "while giving you flexibility for the future." The paperwork Amanda had me sign last year hadn't actually transferred ownership of the house to her as she believed. It had been a limited power of attorney for maintenance decisions, nothing more. The house was still legally mine, held in the Dorothy Winters Memorial Trust, named after my late wife. I'd never corrected Amanda's misunderstanding because, truthfully, it seemed harmless at the time. She took pride in thinking she was helping manage my affairs. If it made her feel important, what was the harm? I never imagined she would try to sell the property out from under me. 2 months ago, I'd contacted Bill again, concerned about some financial documents Amanda had asked me to sign. He suggested we review all my legal arrangements, and he'd sent a letter confirming the status of the trust, along with copies of the relevant documentation. That letter had arrived yesterday, sitting in my mailbox while Amanda and her family unloaded their luggage. I'd put it in my desk drawer without opening it, planning to review it after the holidays. Now, in the early hours of Christmas morning, I retrieved the envelope from my desk. Inside was confirmation of what I already knew. The house was still mine, protected in a trust that could not be sold without my express written consent, notarized and witnessed. The documentation showed something else too, something that made my stomach clench. The power of attorney I'd granted Amanda had specific limitations, but she'd been using it to access my bank accounts. There were records of withdrawals I hadn't authorized, money transferred to an account I didn't recognize. I sat at my desk until sunrise. The papers spread before me, wrestling with the realization that my own daughter had been taking advantage of me financially while planning to move me out of my own home. The betrayal cut deep, but beneath the pain was something else. Resolve. I wouldn't be bullied out of the house Dorothy and I had built together, the house where we had raised our daughter and made a lifetime of memories. When I heard movement in the kitchen, I gathered the papers and put them back in the envelope. Today was Christmas. There would be presents to open, a family meal to endure. But after the holidays, things would change. It was time to take back control of my life and my home. As I tucked the envelope into my bedside table drawer, a wave of sadness washed over me. How had it come to this? My daughter, whom I'd sacrificed so much for, now saw me as nothing but a burden, an obstacle to her plans. Yet, alongside the sadness, was determination. Dorothy had always said I was too soft-hearted, too willing to put others' needs before my own. Maybe it was finally time to stand up for myself. Christmas morning arrived with forced cheer. Amanda orchestrated the gift opening like a corporate event, instructing everyone where to sit and in what order to open presents. I watched Tyler and Haley unwrap the chess set and music box I'd made them, their genuine delight a balm to my wounded spirit. "Did you really make these, Grandpa?" Haley asked, winding the music box to hear the melody. "Every piece," I confirmed. "The wood is cherry from a tree that used to stand in our backyard." "That old thing?" Amanda interjected. "I told Dad to have it removed years ago. Such a waste of space." I bit my tongue, remembering how Dorothy and I had planted that cherry tree the year we moved in. When it had become diseased and needed to be cut down 10 years ago, I had carefully preserved the wood, knowing I'd use it for something special someday. When it came time for Amanda and Richard to open their gift, Amanda barely glanced at the clock before setting it aside. "Very nice, Dad. So old-fashioned." The morning progressed with Amanda repeatedly checking her phone, sending texts, and making brief calls in the kitchen. Around 11, she gathered everyone in the living room for an announcement. "I wanted to let you all know that we found a buyer interested in the house," she said brightly. "They're actually coming by today to take a quick look." "Today?" Margaret exclaimed. "It's Christmas." Amanda waved dismissively. "Real estate doesn't take holidays, Aunt Margaret. It's just a preliminary viewing. They're very motivated buyers." She turned to me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Dad, I think it would be best if you stayed in your room during the viewing. We want the house to show at its best. The implication that my presence would somehow devalue my own home struck me like a physical blow. Before I could respond, Jack spoke up. Amanda, you can't be serious. It's Christmas, and this is Dad's house. You can't just parade strangers through it today. Actually, I can, Amanda replied coolly. And it's not just Dad's house anymore. The sooner we sell, the sooner he can move somewhere more appropriate for his needs. But February? Jack persisted. That's barely a month away. Where's the fire? A flash of something crossed Amanda's face, too quick to identify. The market's hot right now. We need to strike while we can get the best price. The doorbell rang at precisely 12:30. Amanda jumped up to answer it, smoothing her hair and straightening her sweater. Remember, she hissed at me as she passed. Stay in your room. Instead, I retreated to my workshop in the basement, listening to footsteps overhead as Amanda led the potential buyers through my home. Her voice drifted down through the heating vents, pointing out features I had built with my own hands as if they were selling points she had conceived. This archway could easily be widened to create an open floor plan, she was saying. And the master bath is functional but desperately needs updating. I ran my hands over the workbench Dorothy had given me for our 5th anniversary. How many projects had taken shape on this surface? How many hours had I spent here, finding peace in the transformation of raw wood into something beautiful and useful? The viewing lasted 45 minutes. When the front door finally closed, I made my way upstairs to find Amanda already on the phone with someone, discussing offer strategies. She covered the mouthpiece when she saw me. They loved it, she said. They're preparing an offer now. Amanda, we need to talk, I began. Not now, Dad. This is important. She turned away, resuming her conversation. I found Richard in the kitchen, fixing himself a drink stronger than his usual holiday eggnog. Richard, can I ask you something? I said, keeping my voice low. What's the rush with selling the house? Richard glanced toward the doorway, checking for Amanda. It's not my place to say, Sylvester. Amanda handles our finances, but you're her husband. Surely you know why she's in such a hurry to sell my home? Something in my tone must have reached him because he sighed, setting down his glass. Look, I don't agree with how she's handling this. For what it's worth, I've told her to slow down, to consider your feelings. Before he could say more, Amanda appeared in the doorway. Richard, I need you to look over some paperwork. Her gaze shifted to me. Dad, why don't you go rest? You look tired. I didn't argue, but I didn't go to my room either. Instead, I went to find Tyler and Haley, who were playing with their new gifts in the den. Haley's music box was open on the coffee table, the melody playing softly. Do you like it? I asked, sitting down beside her. It's beautiful, Grandpa. Mom says we have to leave all our Christmas gifts here when we go home, though. She says there won't be room for extra stuff when we move. I frowned. Move? Are you moving too? Tyler looked up from his chess game. Mom says we're getting a bigger house in Westview Estates once this one sells. She's been packing our stuff for weeks. This was news to me. Amanda hadn't mentioned anything about moving to a more expensive neighborhood. The pieces were beginning to fit together in a troubling pattern. That evening, after a tense Christmas dinner where Amanda dominated the conversation with talk of real estate values and retirement community amenities, I found her in my home office, going through my filing cabinet. What are you doing? I asked from the doorway. She startled, then recovered quickly. Just getting organized for the sale. We'll need to go through all this paperwork. She held up a folder. These are so outdated, Dad. You've kept utility bills from 10 years ago. Those are my records, Amanda. Please put them back. We don't have time for sentimentality, she said, tossing the folder into a box labeled Shred. The buyers want to close by the end of January, which means we need to start packing up 30 years of clutter. I haven't agreed to any sale, I reminded her. She gave me a patronizing smile. You don't need to. I have power of attorney, remember? It's all been arranged. After she left, I retrieved the folder from the Shred box. Inside were not just utility bills but photos from the construction of the house, the original permits and plans. I had designed much of it myself, working with an architect friend, to get the details just right. There I was, 30 years younger, standing on the foundation the day we poured it. Dorothy beside me, her arm around my waist, both of us beaming with pride and hope. The next morning, I woke to find a for sale sign installed in the front yard, the real estate agent's name prominently displayed. Amanda had wasted no time. Throughout the day, Amanda continued her campaign. She brought in storage boxes and began packing up items around the house, sorting them into piles. Keep, donate, trash. To my horror, many family mementos were landing in the donate or trash piles. "This china was your mother's wedding gift," I protested as she wrapped plates in newspaper. "It's outdated, Dad. Nobody uses formal china anymore." When she started on the photos hanging in the hallway, I drew the line. "Those stay where they are. They're coming down eventually," she replied. "The new owners will want to paint." That's when I noticed Tyler and Haley slipping items from the donation boxes when Amanda wasn't looking. Later, I found them in my room, a small pile of rescued treasures on my bed. Dorothy's favorite brooch, the pottery mug she had made in a ceramics class, the wooden box where I kept my wedding ring. "We saved them for you, Grandpa," Haley whispered. "Mom shouldn't throw away your memories." Tyler nodded seriously. "We can hide more stuff in our suitcases if you want." I hugged them both, these kind-hearted children who somehow saw what their mother couldn't or wouldn't see, that a home was more than real estate, that memories had value beyond market price. That afternoon, Amanda caught Haley trying to return a photo album to the bookshelf after it had been boxed for donation. "What are you doing?" she demanded. "That's been sorted already." "But it's Grandpa's," Haley protested. "Grandpa doesn't need photo albums where he's going. There won't be room." "Maybe I don't want to go," I said, entering the room. Amanda spun around. "Don't be ridiculous. You can't stay here alone. You can barely take care of yourself." "I've been taking care of myself just fine for years." "Really?" Amanda's voice dripped with sarcasm. "Is that why the gutters are overflowing? Why the back porch is rotting? Why you eat microwave dinners 4 nights a week?" Before I could respond, the doorbell rang. Amanda brushed past me to answer it, returning moments later with another couple, clipboard in hand. "Surprise second viewing," she announced cheerily. "Dad, why don't you make yourself scarce?" As I retreated once more, I heard her telling the potential buyers about the renovation possibilities for my workshop in the basement. "It could be a fantastic home gym or media room," she was saying. "All this woodworking equipment will be gone, of course." That night, after everyone had gone to bed, I sat alone in my workshop, running my hands over the tools I'd collected over a lifetime. Each had its own story, its own purpose. The thought of them being sold off or thrown away felt like another death, a erasure of who I was and what I had built. I was leafing through an old album of house photos when something caught my eye: the original building permits, issued in my name. Amanda might believe she owned the house now, but these documents told a different story. I was the one who had built this place, board by board, nail by nail. I was the one whose name was on the original deed, the one who had paid the mortgage for 3 decades. The question was, what was I going to do about it? The day after Christmas, the tension in the house was thick enough to cut with a knife. Amanda was on the phone with the real estate agent first thing in the morning, discussing staging strategies and open house dates. Margaret and Jack exchanged worried glances over breakfast, while Richard buried himself in his laptop, avoiding eye contact with everyone. After breakfast, Jack asked if I would help him get something from his car. Once we were outside, away from Amanda's hearing, he stopped and faced me directly. "Dad, what's really going on here? This whole house sale seems incredibly rushed." I sighed, watching my breath form clouds in the cold December air. "I'm not entirely sure, Jack. Amanda seems determined to move me out as quickly as possible. And you're just going to let her?" There was a challenge in his voice. "I'm considering my options," I replied carefully. Jack ran a hand through his hair, a gesture so like his mother, it made my heart ache. "Mom would be ashamed of how Amanda's treating you. You know that, right? Your sister thinks she's doing what's best," I said, though the words sounded hollow even to my own ears. "Best for who? Not for you." Jack kicked at a pile of snow. "Look, Dad, I know we haven't always been close, but this isn't right. Amanda can't just decide to sell your house and ship you off to some retirement home." Before I could respond, the front door opened, and Amanda called out, "Jack, I need your help with something." Jack gave me a meaningful look. "Think about what I said, Dad. Stand up for yourself." Throughout the day, I noticed the shifting alliances in the family. Margaret stayed close to me, her presence a silent support. Tyler and Haley continued their covert operation of rescuing items from the donation piles when their mother wasn't looking. Even Richard seemed increasingly uncomfortable with Amanda's behavior. That evening, as Amanda was organizing boxes in the living room, Richard approached me in the kitchen, where I was making a cup of coffee. "Sylvester," he said quietly, "I want you to know that I don't agree with how Amanda is handling this situation." "You're her husband," I replied. "You could say something." He sighed, glancing toward the living room to ensure Amanda wasn't within earshot. "I've tried. She's determined. But for what it's worth, I think you should get your own legal advice before signing anything." "Are you offering?" "I can't. Conflict of interest. He hesitated, then added, but I can give you the name of someone good, someone who specializes in elder law. Elder law? I couldn't keep the bitterness from my voice. Is that how you see me? As some helpless old man who needs special legal protection? Richard had the grace to look embarrassed. Poor choice of words. Just, get your own lawyer, okay? Don't sign anything Amanda gives you without having someone else look at it first. Our conversation was interrupted by Amanda entering the kitchen. What are you two whispering about? Just catching up, Richard said smoothly. I was asking Sylvester about that cherry wood he used for the kids' gifts. Amanda gave us a suspicious look but didn't pursue it. I've scheduled an elder care consultation for tomorrow morning. The representative from Golden Sunset will be here at 10. I haven't agreed to move to any retirement home, I reminded her. It's just a consultation, Dad. No commitment. Her tone suggested she was humoring me. But they do have a waiting list, so if you like it, we'd need to put down a deposit soon. After dinner, I retreated to my room, mentally exhausted from maintaining a calm facade while my daughter dismantled my life piece by piece. I was sorting through some personal papers when a soft knock sounded at my door. It was Jack again. Can I come in? He asked. When I nodded, he entered and closed the door behind him. I've been doing some digging, he said without preamble. About why Amanda is in such a rush to sell this place. He sat on the edge of my bed. Did you know she's been struggling financially? This caught me by surprise. What do you mean? She and Richard both have good jobs. They live in that big house in Boston. Jack shook his head. That's the image she projects. But I called a buddy who works at her company. There have been layoffs, and Amanda's position is on shaky ground. Plus, he hesitated, there are rumors about gambling debts. Gambling? The word felt foreign in connection with my daughter. Amanda's always been so careful with money. People change, Dad. And some problems are easy to hide. Jack leaned forward. I think she needs money, and she needs it fast. This house would be a significant cash infusion if she could sell it. The pieces were falling into place. Amanda's urgency, her insistence on a quick sale, her determination to move me out. It wasn't about my well-being at all. It was about her financial problems. Have you talked to her about this? I asked. Jack snorted. Tried once. She shut me down immediately. Told me to mind my own business. Our conversation was interrupted by another knock. Margaret poked her head in. Am I interrupting? Not at all, I said, gesturing for her to join us. Margaret settled into the armchair by the window. I've been talking with the grandkids, she said. They're upset about all this. They don't understand why their mother is in such a hurry to sell your house. Did they say anything specific? Jack asked. Margaret nodded. Haley mentioned that Amanda has been getting lots of phone calls lately that make her upset. She goes into another room to take them, but the kids have overheard her arguing with someone about payments and deadlines. Jack looked at me significantly. Sounds like evidence of financial pressure. It could be anything, I cautioned, not wanting to jump to conclusions. There's something else, Margaret said. I noticed your mail is being delivered to a box on the porch instead of through the slot in the door like usual. The mail slot broke a few months ago, I explained. I haven't gotten around to fixing it. But the strange thing is, Margaret continued, when the mail carrier came today, Amanda intercepted him before he could put anything in the box. I watched from the window. She took the mail from him directly. She's monitoring your mail? Jack's expression darkened. Dad, that's not normal. That's controlling behavior. I thought about the letter from Bill Thompson that had arrived just before Christmas, confirming my ownership of the house. Had there been other communications that Amanda had intercepted? Other information she had kept from me? I'll check with the post office, I said. See if there's been a change of delivery instructions. I'll go with you, Jack offered. After the holidays. Margaret reached over and patted my hand. Sylvester, Dorothy would want you to stand up for yourself. You know that, right? She never let anyone push her around, and she wouldn't want Amanda treating you this way. The mention of Dorothy brought a lump to my throat. She had been the strong one in many ways, the one who spoke her mind without hesitation. I had always been more inclined to avoid conflict, to seek compromise. But Margaret was right. Dorothy would be appalled at how our daughter was behaving. That night, I lay awake long after the house had gone quiet, thinking about what Jack had revealed. Amanda with gambling debts. Amanda intercepting my mail. Amanda rushing to sell my house out from under me. The daughter I had sacrificed so much for was now trying to sacrifice me for her own financial gain. The realization hurt, but it also crystallized my resolve. I would not be moved out of my own home. I would not be shuttled off to a retirement community to make way for Amanda's financial recovery. I had spent a lifetime putting others first, especially my children. Perhaps it was finally time to put myself first. With that decision made, I fell into a deeper sleep than I had experienced in months, as if a weight had been lifted from my shoulders. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges, but for the first time since this ordeal began, I felt ready to face them. 3 days after Christmas, Amanda called a family meeting. She had prepared documents for the retirement home, brochures spread across the dining room table like a corporate presentation. Richard sat beside her, looking uncomfortable, but saying nothing. Jack, Tina, and Margaret were there too, along with Tyler and Haley, who had been told to sit quietly and listen. "I've spoken with the real estate agent," Amanda began briskly. "We have a firm offer on the house, 20% above asking price. The buyers are eager to close quickly." She slid a document across the table toward me. "These are the papers for Golden Sunset. They have an opening for February 1st, which works perfectly with our timeline." "What's the rush, Amanda?" Jack asked. "Why does Dad need to move out so quickly?" "The market is hot right now," she replied. The same explanation she'd been giving all week. "And the retirement community rarely has openings. We need to act fast." "Does Dad even want to move?" Tina asked quietly. Amanda waved a dismissive hand. "Of course he does. He just doesn't realize it yet. The house is too much for him to maintain, and Golden Sunset has activities, companionship, nurses on staff." "I haven't agreed to any of this," I said, keeping my voice calm. "Dad, we've been over this." Amanda's tone was the one she might use with a difficult child. "The house is in my name now. I have power of attorney. This is happening whether you agree or not." "Actually," I said, "I'd like to say a few words before we go any further." Amanda sighed dramatically. "Fine, Dad. Say what you need to say, but let's not drag this out. We have a lot to go over." I looked around at my family gathered at the table. Except for Amanda, they all looked uncomfortable with the proceedings. Even Richard wouldn't meet my eyes. I took a deep breath and began. "This house isn't just a piece of real estate to me. It's the physical manifestation of a life built with love." I paused, gathering my thoughts. "When Dorothy and I bought this land, we were young and full of dreams. We couldn't afford to hire a contractor, so I built it myself, board by board. Every corner of this place holds a memory." I pointed to a spot near the kitchen doorway. "That's where we marked Amanda's height every year on her birthday." I gestured toward the living room. "That bay window is where Dorothy would sit to read on Sunday afternoons, sun streaming in just right." Amanda shifted impatiently. "Dad, nostalgia isn't going to change anything. You can take your memories with you." I continued as if she hadn't spoken. "When Dorothy got sick, we sat together on the back porch watching sunsets, counting the good days. After she passed, this house kept me connected to her. I've maintained it as best I could, not just for me, but for our family, for the grandkids to have a place that feels like home when they visit." Tyler and Haley were watching me intently, nodding slightly. Even Jack looked moved. "I understand that things change. I'm not against the idea of downsizing someday, but that decision should be mine to make, in my own time." I straightened in my chair. "Which brings me to an important point. Amanda, you've been operating under a misunderstanding. The house is not, in fact, in your name." Amanda's head snapped up. "What are you talking about? You signed the papers last year. Richard prepared them himself." I reached into my pocket and pulled out the envelope from Bill Thompson. "I did sign papers, yes, but not the ones you think. What I signed was a limited power of attorney for specific maintenance decisions, not a transfer of ownership." "That's ridiculous," Amanda scoffed. "Richard, tell him." Richard looked distinctly uncomfortable. "Actually, I never said the papers transferred ownership. You told your father that's what they were." "This letter is from my financial advisor," I continued, removing the contents from the envelope. "It confirms that this house is still legally mine, held in the Dorothy Winters Memorial Trust. It cannot be sold without my express written consent, notarized and witnessed." Amanda's face flushed. "Let me see that," she demanded, snatching the papers from my hand. She scanned them quickly, her expression changing from confidence to confusion to anger. "This can't be right," she muttered. "There must be some mistake." "No mistake," I said calmly. "I established that trust shortly after your mother died, on the advice of Bill Thompson. He helped me structure all my assets to protect them for the future." "You never told me about any trust," Amanda accused. "You never asked. You assumed, and I let you assume." I held out my hand for the papers, which she reluctantly returned. "There's something else you should know. The power of attorney you do have has very specific limitations. It does not give you the right to access my bank accounts or make withdrawals without my knowledge." The room fell silent. Amanda's face drained of color. I don't know what you're talking about, she said, but her voice lacked conviction. I think you do. I placed another document on the table. This is a record of withdrawals from my accounts over the past year. Withdrawals I never authorized. Money transferred to an account I don't recognize. Jack leaned forward. Amanda, what have you done? Amanda's composure cracked. You don't understand. None of you understand the pressure I've been under. Then help us understand, I said gently. Because from where I sit, it looks like you've been taking advantage of me financially, while planning to move me out of my own home. Tears welled in Amanda's eyes, but whether from shame or frustration, I couldn't tell. I needed the money, she finally said, her voice small. My position at work is being eliminated in the reorganization. Richard's firm lost a major client, and I made some bad investments. Gambling debts, Jack supplied. Amanda glared at him. How did you know that? It doesn't matter, I intervened. What matters is that you tried to solve your problems by taking what isn't yours. This house is not for sale, Amanda. Not now, not in February, not ever, unless I decide to sell it. But the retirement home, Amanda protested weakly. The deposit. I'm not moving to any retirement home, I stated firmly. I'm staying right here, in the house I built with my own hands, for as long as I'm able. The room was silent for a long moment, the weight of revelations hanging in the air. Then Tyler spoke up from the end of the table. Does this mean we're not moving to Westview Estates, Mom? Amanda looked at her son, then at her husband. Richard shook his head slightly. We never had the money for Westview, Amanda. That was a fantasy. You told us we were moving, Haley said, confusion in her voice. You made us pack our stuff. Amanda buried her face in her hands. I thought once the house sold, we'd have enough for a down payment. I thought I could fix everything. By taking my home? I asked quietly. You don't need all this space, Amanda burst out. You're one person in a 4-bedroom house. It makes no sense. It's not about what makes sense on paper, Margaret interjected. It's about respect, about family, about not treating your father like a piece of property to be moved around for your convenience. Amanda rounded on her. Stay out of this, Aunt Margaret. This is between me and my father. Actually, I said, it's a family matter now. You've made it one by involving everyone in your plans. I looked around the table. I want everyone to understand where things stand. This house is mine. I'm not moving. And Amanda, I turned back to my daughter. You and I need to have a serious conversation about the money you've taken. Are you going to press charges? She asked, fear evident in her voice. The question hung in the air. I could have. The documentation showed clear financial exploitation. But looking at my daughter, despite everything, I still saw the little girl who had once helped me hammer floorboards in her treehouse. No, I said finally. I'm not going to press charges. But things are going to change. In the days that followed our confrontation, the house was quieter than it had been throughout the holidays. Amanda stayed mostly in the guest room, emerging only for meals. Richard made arrangements for them to return to Boston earlier than planned. Tyler and Haley spent more time with me in the workshop, eager to learn about the tools and techniques I had used to create their Christmas gifts. The day before Amanda and her family were set to leave, I asked her to meet me in my office. She entered cautiously, as if expecting another confrontation. Sit down, I said, gesturing to the chair across from my desk. We need to talk. She sat, hands folded tightly in her lap. If it's about the money, I'll pay it back. Somehow. It's not just about the money, Amanda. It's about trust. It's about family. I leaned forward, meeting her eyes. You've broken my trust in a fundamental way. You tried to take my home, to move me somewhere against my will. You've apparently been gambling, hiding financial problems, taking money that isn't yours. She looked down, unable to maintain eye contact. I know. I'm sorry. Sorry isn't enough. My voice was firm but not unkind. Actions have consequences, Amanda. In the real world, what you've done could result in criminal charges, jail time even. But you're my daughter, and despite everything, I love you. A tear slipped down her cheek. I don't deserve your forgiveness. Maybe not, but I'm offering something else instead. A chance to make things right. I placed a folder on the desk between us. These are the conditions I've drawn up with the help of my attorney. She opened the folder hesitantly. Inside was a document outlining a repayment plan for the money she had taken, along with a requirement that she seek professional help for gambling addiction and undergo financial counseling. You have a problem, Amanda, a serious one, and it won't go away by selling my house or taking more of my money. You need help. I can't afford therapy, she protested weakly. I've arranged to cover the initial costs, provided you actually attend. I tapped the document. There's more. Richard has agreed to take over management of your joint finances temporarily, with oversight from a financial advisor. You'll have a limited allowance until you demonstrate responsibility. You talked to Richard about this? Her voice held a note of betrayal. Of course I did. He's your husband, and he's worried about you. About your marriage, your family. This affects him too. I paused. He loves you, Amanda. He wants to help. So do Jack and Margaret. So do I. She was quiet for a long moment, staring at the document. And if I refuse? Then I will have no choice but to pursue legal action to recover the money you've taken and to ensure you have no further access to any of my accounts or property. I said it without anger, simply stating facts. I don't want to do that, Amanda. I want to help you heal, to become the person I know you can be. The person your mother raised you to be. At the mention of Dorothy, Amanda's composure cracked. Sobs racked her body as years of pent-up emotions poured out. I moved around the desk and put my arm around her shoulders, holding her as she cried. I miss her so much, she whispered between sobs. I've been trying so hard to be successful, to make something of myself, to make her proud. She was already proud of you, I said gently. And success isn't measured in money or possessions, Amanda. It's measured in love, in how you treat others, especially family. Gradually, her tears subsided. She wiped her eyes and looked at the document again. Okay, she said finally. I'll do it. All of it. Good. I squeezed her shoulder before returning to my seat. There's one more thing. I've been talking with Jack and Margaret about the future. We've agreed that I should have someone checking in on me regularly, helping with house maintenance, that sort of thing. You're hiring a caretaker? Amanda asked. No. Jack has offered to move closer. There's a teaching position opening up at the local high school next fall, and he's applying for it. Until then, he and Tina will visit weekly, and Margaret will stay with me for a month or so. Amanda nodded slowly. That makes sense. I should have thought of something like that instead of trying to move you out. Yes, you should have. I didn't sugarcoat it, but we're moving forward now, not looking back. Before they left the next day, Amanda approached me in the workshop, where I was showing Tyler how to use a lathe. Dad, she said hesitantly, I found out we can't afford our house in Boston anymore. With everything that's happened, we might need to downsize significantly. I waited, suspecting there was more. Richard suggested we could find a small place nearby, so the kids could be closer to you. Would that be okay? Of course it would, I replied, genuinely pleased at the idea of having my grandchildren nearby. In fact, there's a nice house for sale just 3 blocks over. 3 bedrooms, good yard. Might be worth looking into. Amanda smiled tentatively. Thank you. For everything. I don't deserve a second chance, but I'm grateful for it. Over the following year, our family underwent a transformation. Amanda followed through on her commitment to seek help for her gambling addiction. It wasn't an easy journey, with setbacks and struggles along the way, but she persevered. Richard stood by her, their marriage growing stronger through the crisis. They did end up selling their Boston home, using the proceeds to pay off debts and purchase the more modest house in my neighborhood. Tyler and Haley thrived with the change, spending afternoons in my workshop learning woodworking skills their mother had never been interested in. Jack accepted the teaching position and moved his family to a house on the other side of town. Having both my children nearby was a blessing I hadn't anticipated, and Sunday family dinners became a new tradition. Amanda and Richard worked with a financial counselor to rebuild their finances on a solid foundation. Slowly, Amanda began to repay what she had taken from me. More importantly, she began to rebuild my trust in her, one day at a time. The following Christmas Eve was a different scene entirely. We gathered in my dining room, the table expanded to accommodate our growing family. When it came time to serve the meal, Amanda approached me with the serving spoon for the turkey. Dad, she said, loud enough for everyone to hear, would you do the honors this year? As I stood to serve my family, I caught Amanda's eye. The genuine respect and love I saw there was worth more than any house or possession could ever be. Later, as we sat by the fireplace, Haley asked innocently, Grandpa, tell us again about how you built this house. So, I told the story once more, about a young couple with dreams, about hard work and sacrifice, about the true meaning of home. And this time, Amanda listened too, really listened, as if hearing it for the first time. Life doesn't always go as planned. Families face challenges, relationships get tested. But I've learned that true strength comes not from stubbornly holding on to possessions or power, but from knowing when to stand your ground and when to extend forgiveness. My house remains my own, But more importantly, my family has been rebuilt on a foundation of honesty and respect. Dorothy would be proud, not just of me for finally standing up for myself, but of Amanda for finding her way back to the values we tried to instill in her. Sometimes the hardest lessons are the ones we need most. And sometimes, even at 67 years old, you can teach those lessons while learning new ones yourself. Have you ever had to stand up to a family member who was taking advantage of you? Or have you had to find that delicate balance between asserting your rights and maintaining family relationships? I'd love to hear your stories and thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video if you found something valuable in my experience, subscribe for more real-life stories, and share with someone who might need to hear this message today. Thank you for listening. And may your own family journeys be filled with growth, healing, and the courage to do what's right, even when it's difficult.